Of course, we'll talk all about that, plus President Biden's trip to New York today. He's going to talk about the debt ceiling, Bianca, a little bit later, but he's also heading down to Wall Street tonight for a $25,000 a plate 2024 campaign fundraising appearance. Also today, Tucker Carlson says he's found a new home, and it's on Twitter. This as the legal fight between Fox News and Tucker gets uglier by the day. It's great to be with everyone. I'm John Bachman.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bianca Della Garza. Yes, new developments as Tucker shared this brand new video last night saying he will relaunch a version of his show on Elon Musk's platform, quote, soon. Take the highest levels of government at this news conference just hours ago. In fact, Comer discussed the Biden family's profiting from foreign entities. He says while Joe Biden was vice president, he also says he has bank records to prove it, and he's releasing them. Comer claims there is a pattern of influence peddling, even ties between the Biden family and the Chinese Communist Party. Comer's investigation is pulling back the curtains on millions of dollars they received from China and other countries. We learned today Romania is among them. President Biden, of course, has denied his family received any of these payments. Let's get right out to our national correspondent, Logan Raddick, with all these new details coming out from Comer's press conference today. Logan?
Well, Bianca, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, as you mentioned, releasing those bank records, linking Biden family members to transactions with companies linked to the Chinese Communist Party, but also Romania. That's the first time we've really heard about Romania being linked to the Biden family from Chairman Comer. He says that there were transactions made between 2015 and 2017 towards the end of Joe Biden's tenure as Barack Obama's vice president.
While Vice President Biden was lecturing Romania on anti-corruption policies, in reality, he was a walking billboard for his son and family to collect money. Hunter Biden and his associates capitalized on a lucrative financial relationship with the Romanian national who was under investigation for and later convicted of corruption in Romania. The Bidens received over $1 million for the deal, and 16 of the 17 payments to their associates' account that funneled the Biden's money occurred while Joe Biden was vice president. In fact, the money stops flowing from the Romanian national soon after Joe Biden leaves the vice presidency.
And Comer did not stop there. He said that at least 9 other Biden family members have received payments from these foreign companies, including Hallie Biden, the widow of Beau Biden, and Kathleen Biden, the ex-wife of Hunter Biden. Again, most of these transactions related to Hunter Biden. And Comer says the committee is concerned about 20 companies the Biden family has used to allegedly enrich themselves. Many of those companies were linked to the Chinese Communist Party. Comer also says bank records show the Biden family and their associates made over $10 million from foreign nationals and their companies, including more than $1 million over 15 separate payments from a Chinese company through a third party. Chairman Comer says the Oversight Committee has obtained thousands of pages of financial records related to those transactions, and the Oversight Committee recently revealed bank records showing Biden family members, again, were getting money from those Chinese-linked companies. Now, today's press conference, it also comes just 1 week after a whistleblower claimed the FBI and DOJ are in possession of a document that describes an influence peddling scheme involving then Vice President Joe Biden and a foreign national. Former federal prosecutor Bud Cummins actually showed me emails that indicate that the Justice Department was alerted to a potential bribery scheme involving former Vice President Biden back in 2018. So that was before he even ran for president. Comer says this is not a witch hunt and that he's only releasing information that he has evidence for. Meanwhile, the White House is firing back, saying that this is nothing more than a political witch hunt and that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden maintain their innocence. But again, Chairman Comer will continue that investigation, and he continues to find more companies linked to those foreign business dealings of the Biden family. Back to you.
Pretty stunning stuff. A lot of money there. Logan Raddick live for us at the Capitol. Thanks, Logan. John, over to you.
All right, thank you, Bianca. Let's welcome in now Fred Fleitz. He's with us from the former Chief of Staff of the National Security Council, also the Vice Chair of the Center for American Security at the America First Policy Institute. Fred, great to see you.
Hey, John, good to be here.
So the White House tried to say yesterday that James Comer and House Republicans were pushing ahead with an evidence-free investigation Sure sounds like a lot of evidence that was presented today by Chairman Comer.
It's just 20, at least separate, 20 separate companies, $10 million, multiple LLCs, many Biden family members involved. I don't know what's going to happen when they keep peeling this onion, but the question I think Americans are asking is all these foreign companies, all these foreign officials, what do they think they were buying when they were applying all this money into the Biden family? Well, it's fairly obvious. They knew Joe Biden would be returning to government. They were buying influence.
Right. These were points made not just by Chairman Comer, but also Congressman Byron Donalds. If these were legitimate businesses, show us the business plan. Show us the widgets or whatever it was they were making. Show us the, what was the product that they were actually getting into, and why can't they answer that question? We're gonna have to wonder. And at a certain point, Fred, I mean, this has to lead, if what James Comer is alleging, they have to think about impeaching Joe Biden for this. This is now proof that he was receiving money, allegedly, while he was vice president of the United States from a country, Romania.
Well, I think that there are many reasons to impeach Joe Biden. That isn't going to happen. We can talk about that. That's an issue that has to come up in the 2024 election. Realistically, we can talk about it. In a perfect world, he would have been thrown out a long time ago for the terrible way he's run this country, how he's damaged the economy, damaged our national security, never mind all this corruption. But I think this is going to be an important talking point in the 24 election.
Okay, real quickly, too, just one more note on this whistleblower investigation by the House Judiciary and Intelligence Committee. They conclude that the Biden campaign took active measures to discredit allegations about Hunter Biden by exploiting these 51 national security former intelligence officials. And it comes after the former CIA director, Michael Morrell, admitted to Congress and congressional investigators that he helped trigger this letter. And nobody, Fred, has been held to account for this yet.
CIA management was involved. Apparently, people who cleared the letter helped find more signatories. And Morrell said that he pushed this letter forward to help Biden get reelected. And there's an email in this new report, and it says the following. This is from Morrell to a former CIA officer. The more intelligence officers, the better. Campaign will be thrilled. I mean, John, think about that. This former CIA director is doing this obviously to help Biden win the election, not because of any intelligence concern, not because of national security concerns. It was blatantly political all the way down.
They're going to have to strip it down to its roots, Fred, to get rid of all the politicization in the intelligence community. Great to see you. Thanks, as always.
Good to be here.
Breaking news right now. It is the crisis along our southern border. Thousands of migrants expected to surge. We are also learning at this hour that the Biden administration is planning to release them into the United States with no way of tracking them once they're here. That is according to a brand new report from NBC, citing 3 sources familiar with those plans. Now, it is saying that the Biden administration is preparing a memo that will direct Custom and Border Protection to release migrants without court dates or the ability to track them. This, of course, comes as Title 42 is set to expire tomorrow at noon. And more than 11,000 migrants, in fact, were caught crossing our southern border just yesterday alone.
Let me be clear. The lifting of the Title 42 public health order does not mean our border is open. In fact.
Who's buying that? That's DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas making remarks just moments ago at CBP headquarters in D.C. Mayorkas also blamed Congress and Republicans for the border crisis.
I cannot overemphasize that our current situation is the outcome of Congress leaving a broken, outdated immigration system in place for over 2 decades, despite unanimous agreement that we desperately need legislative reform.
Now, those comments come after Mayorkas visited Brownsville, Texas yesterday. Border officials there are expecting a surge of migrants, and we're already seeing this even before the expiration of Title 42. This new video comes to us. You can see the groups, masses of people crossing the Rio Grande River. And this is just the beginning of what we expect to see again tomorrow and every day after that, after the expiration of Title 42. Bianca?
Live to the border during this broadcast. But right now, a bit of breaking news for you also on George Santos. Justice Department this morning unsealing federal criminal charges against the New York congressman. Santos was arrested. He's now in federal custody. In fact, he's expected to appear today at the Long Island Federal Courthouse. The 13 charges alleged include wire fraud, money laundering, theft of public funds, and lying to the U.S. House of Representatives. Prosecutors claiming Santos used his campaign funds on personal expenses and fraudulently applied for COVID-related unemployment benefits.
Well, coming up, we're going to talk about what's at stake in tonight's CNN town hall, both for the network and for former President Trump. We expect him to face tough questions on his legal troubles, but he can also turn this around and make it a big win for him. How will it affect his presidential campaign? We'll dive into that. Also, we'll have the latest on this debt ceiling standoff and President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. And did you see President Biden's news conference last night? We'll talk to James Rosen about that. He's also attending a $25,000 a plate campaign event in New York City tonight. We'll give you details. States could run out of money as soon as June 1st. What would that look like? Well, Social Security payments could be stopped. They always say U.S. service members would not be getting paid. The stock market would most likely hit a serious decline, and interest rates, well, they could go up even higher than they already have risen. Now, millions of jobs could be hanging in the balance, and at this hour, both sides are far from a deal. They're all scaring us. Take a listen.
Nothing has changed since then. The only thing that has changed is the House has raised the debt ceiling and passed the bill.
The solution is between the one person in America who can sign a bill into law and the Speaker of the House.
There are large differences between the parties. If you look at what President Biden had proposed and you look at what Speaker McCarthy has proposed, they're very, very different.
There's a lot of politics, posturing, and gamesmanship, and it's going to continue for a while. But I am squarely focused on what matters.
So that right there was President Biden at that news conference. And joining us now for more on that, some pretty extraordinary things we saw in that news conference. Our chief White House correspondent James Rosen now joins us. James, what did we learn during that news conference last night?
Well, John and Bianca, good afternoon. Speaker McCarthy, who has always wanted to tie the hike in the debt ceiling to cuts in federal spending, told reporters at the White House last night that he saw no movement by President Biden, who has insisted all along on a clean hike to the debt ceiling, one with no strings attached. The two men agreed to meet again this coming Friday. That's in sharp contrast to the 97 days that separated their first two meetings. They also agreed that their staff aides should meet every day. Asked a few moments ago on Air Force One if those staff meetings have commenced, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre had no real answer. Beyond that, the two men's accounts of their meeting diverged sharply.
But I was very clear with the president. We have now just 2 weeks to go. If Chuck Schumer could pass something, we'd go to conference right away and solve that. But I don't think Chuck Schumer can pass anything. They haven't dealt with it.
All I asked him inside was, if you're not going to cut any of those programs, and you're saying the cut is 22% across the board, then you're going to have to cut a hell of a lot more with the programs that are left. No, we're not going to do that either. I'm not sure. I don't think they're sure exactly what they're proposing.
Amid this debate over the debt ceiling, President Biden has been accused from time to time of conflating the debt and the deficit, engaging in a kind of sleight of hand for accounting purposes. We got last night perhaps the clearest example yet.
In my first 2 years, I reduced the debt by $1.7 trillion. No president's ever done that. As I said, I've already cut the deficit by $1.7 trillion in my first 2 years in office.
So again, the same sentence, one saying he cut the debt by $1.7 trillion in his first 2 years in office, the other attributing that to the deficit. There was one moment when Mr. Biden seemed displeased by the text that was written for him by his speechwriters, a certain lack of clarity, which he attempted to resolve with some editing out loud on the fly. Here's the chief executive. He spoke so softly in such a low whisper that I believe we've added subtitles.
According to Moody's, nearly 8 million Americans would lose their jobs, and our international reputation would be damaged in the extreme. The last part is me, international. Moody's did not say the last part about damage in the extreme.
Finally, the president was asked if the U.S. is ready for the surge in illegal immigration that is expected with tomorrow's expiration of Title 42, the Trump-era pandemic rule that enabled swifter deportations.
The answer is it remains to be seen. We've gotten overwhelming cooperation from Mexico, but it remains to be seen. It's going to be chaotic for a while.
It's going to be chaotic for a while. Asked again on Air Force One moments ago what a while might mean, what kind of time frame the American people can expect the border to be chaotic. The White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre declined to answer. Published reports say that in addition to the 1,500 troops that the Biden administration is dispatching to the southwest border, they're also making plans to deploy some 24,000 law enforcement personnel and 1,100 individuals listed as processing coordinators. And again, I know Bianca mentioned it earlier, but there is now an NBC News report that alleges, on the basis of 3 unidentified sources, that part of the Biden administration's planning for the expiration of Title 42 is simply to allow large numbers of migrants to be released into the United States without enrolling them in the usual tracking programs. John and Bianca.
Yeah, if true, that is appalling to hear. James Rosen, keep us posted on that development. Great to see you. Thanks so much. All right, let's talk more about President Biden. Welcome in GOP strategist Joe Pinion, joining me here on set in New York. Joe, great to have you here.
Good to be here, my friend.
All right, so let's talk about what we're going to see Joe Biden do today. There's supposedly, well, we know this for a fact, there's a border crisis right now, and the debt ceiling is supposedly a big crisis, but he has time to come to New York today and tell America that he's talking about the debt ceiling and then sneak away to a fundraiser, a $25,000 a plate fundraiser tonight. How can we take these crises seriously if this is what the president is doing?
Well, it's very clear the president doesn't take the crisis seriously. In fact, again, this is a proliferation of the failure by design politics that Joe Biden has brought us after he quoted Abraham Lincoln and promised to unify this nation. So if he is concerned about the fact that we are looking at people in the military not getting paid, if he is concerned about the fact that the full faith and credit of the American dollar is in many ways the strength and the backbone of American dominance around the globe, he should not be in New York. He should be down speaking with Speaker McCarthy. He should be down in D.C. trying to get Senator Schumer to see if he can get something done in the Senate. Apparently, it is now easy to just say MAGA extremists have hijacked our democracy instead of acknowledging the reality that the only extreme thing happening is that they have decided it is our way or the highway.
All right, let's talk about Janet Yellen. Now, she is also sounding alarms, telling everybody that the country's going to run out of money by June 1st. And they're negotiating. So it seems like when you listen to what Chuck Schumer said in James Rosen's package, they continue to want to dig in their heels because they do not want any cuts in spending. The difference is Republicans have actually put forth a plan that cuts spending but raises the debt ceiling. So they have a choice. They could end this quote-unquote crises today, right now, if they wanted to.
Well, their position is, on some rights, correct, right? That the debt ceiling is money that we have already spent, that we should have that conversation separate from the actual spending. The problem with that is that any person knows that if you're actually dealing with the fact that we have an economy that is not working, if you're dealing with the fact that we printed $6 trillion of our money without actually dealing with the fact that we now have to actually carve back also some of that money, you end up in a situation where most of the people find themselves, really struggling every single day. So I think those are the core issues that people have to be focused on, making sure that we actually have a plan to get the economy back on track. They don't have a plan to get the economy back on track. They have a plan to fearmonger and say that we're going to cut Social Security and cut Medicare, things that are not included in any of the plans put forth by McCarthy.
You got the blinders on. Joe, great to see you. Great to be with you as well.
Thanks so much.
All right, Bianca, back to you.
And don't go anywhere, folks. Tonight's the big night. Former President Donald Trump has his town hall on CNN, the very first time he's appeared on that network since 2016. Of course, we know they need the ratings. But what do you think will happen? It's with a host he has sparred with before. Our panel weighs in on what's at stake. Plus, New York Congressman George Santos arrested, turned himself in on federal criminal charges today. More details about his potential court appearance. It could be as early as this afternoon. We have the latest. We'll be right back.
In New York City, found liable for battery and defamation. His case against columnists, in the case from columnist E. Jean Carroll, suing Donald Trump in civil court. The jury also awarding her $5 million. Let's toss it out to correspondent John Glasgow. He joins us live now with more on the case and the result. John?
Yeah, political reaction rolling in today. Republicans seemingly split on the verdict. Some siding with the former president, suggesting that the case is politically motivated. Listen.
Yeah, I think the New York legal system's off the rails when it comes to Donald Trump.
What's happening in some of these courtrooms in Manhattan, I don't even know. I'm not going to get into it.
It's a jury of his peers finding him.
Come on, man, serious? Don't say that stuff to me. That might work for somebody else. That definitely don't work for me. Jury of my peers, yeah, whatever. What else you got?
I mean, that's pretty much it. This is a sexual abuse conviction, basically.
It's an allegation from, what, 25 years ago?
My 4.5 years serving alongside the president, I never heard or witnessed behavior of that nature.
So Trump's GOP rivals staying quiet, no comment from Tim Scott, Nikki Haley, and Ron DeSantis, but others like Senator Mitt Romney and presidential candidate Asa Hutchinson, they have this to say. Listen here.
I hope the jury of the American people reach the same conclusion about Donald Trump. He just is not suited to be president of the United States.
I think it will bother many in the base, but it also depends on what people say about it and how they approach it. And for example,
what does that mean, what they say about it and how they approach it?
Well, Donald Trump is going to say this is old, these are false, it's a crooked system, or it's a fixed system. Well, some will buy into that, but I think whenever you have leaders like myself that speak out, Senator Cornyn, it does make a difference.
So former president taking to Truth Social, this case should never have been allowed to be tried in this completely partisan venue, perhaps the worst for me in the nation. The whole rigged hoax is yet another travesty of justice, a continuation of the greatest political witch hunt of all time. E. Jean Carroll spoke about the verdict today. Here's that.
An overwhelming amount of relief and joy and a feeling of at last, and the surge of, there's a sort of a feeling of victory.
So Trump's legal team is working on an appeal, which they believe they will win. The question is, will this hurt his presidential campaign? Time will tell, John.
It will indeed. John Glasgow, good to see you. Thank you.
All right, folks, former President Donald Trump taking part in that CNN town hall. It is this evening. Caitlin Collins will host the event at St. Anselm College in New Hampshire. Trump will be taking questions from Republicans in the state and also undeclared voters who expect to be voting in the 2024 Republican primary. Now, CNN is noting this will mark Trump's first appearance on the network since 2016's presidential campaign. And also, Trump posted this on Truth Social yesterday, saying, "I'll be doing CNN tomorrow night live from the great state of New Hampshire because they are rightfully desperate to get those fantastic Trump ratings once again. They made me a deal," he says, "I couldn't refuse. Could be the beginning of a new and vibrant CNN with no more fake news, or it could turn into a disaster for all, including me," he says, ending with, "Let's see what happens Wednesday night at 8 p.m. So here we are. Today is the day. Let's welcome in our panel to discuss this. Joe Conason, the editor-in-chief of the National Memo, and also alongside him is the founder of Allison May PR, Newsmax contributor Allison Maloney. Great to see you both. Obviously, tonight will be must-see TV. Trump, CNN. You know, Trump says, Allison, he thinks it could go either way. Probably kind of joking, but we do know supporters and critics will be tuning in tonight. Smart move rating-wise, I would say, for CNN. But in light of the verdict yesterday, which may be something, you know, that could be a skewed narrative with the CNN audience, can he use this moment to attract more support?
Yeah, I think so. And he's so smart when it comes to marketing, putting out that Truth Social, getting people to be like, wait, what's going to happen? So, of course, he's an expert at that. And you're right, it'll be great ratings for CNN. Trump has been and continues to be a ratings grabber. So for CNN, who's losing ratings, this is smart for them to have this. But this is his chance to control the narrative. Bianca, we see networks, they'll pull sound bites together, and then they'll have analysts, and they'll analyze it, and they'll speak negatively about him. He's going into the lion's den. He's going to take questions, and I think he'll answer them. This is a great opportunity for him to come right out of the gate, answer questions about this case, be done with it, and move forward.
Speaking of those questions, they will be posed by Caitlin Collins. And Joe, she and Trump have sort of sparred before. Politico Playbook had a outline of some of their past exchanges this morning. We know that inside the Beltway, everyone reads this. Intelligence between Washington, D.C. and Beijing. Right now, an Axios report is stating that China is already way ahead of the United States in enacting rules for this new technology, which poses a lot of risks. Chinese officials will close a consultation today on a second round of generative AI regulation, building a set of rules governing deepfakes agreed in 2022. Now, this comes as the Biden administration is behind both allies and adversaries on AI guardrails. The big picture here, though, many worry China, if they're first on AI governance, could actually project some of its standards and regulations globally, attempting to shape lucrative and pliable markets ahead. Well, let's talk about the race to regulate AI and also some cybersecurity 101 information you need to know. Scott Augenbaum, a retired FBI supervisory special agent and author of The Secret to Cybersecurity, is good enough to join us today. Great to see you, Scott. Thanks for your time.
Good afternoon. I'm so glad to be here. We got a
आज की वीडियो जिसका हम रिव्यू करने जा रहे हैं ये एक क्लीनिंग सर्विस की है। एक सेटिस्फाइंग वीडियो है जिसमें एक आदमी जो है वो किसी भी घर में जाके रिक्वेस्ट करता है क्लीनिंग सर्विस करने की और ये फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट करता है। सबसे बेस्ट बात ये है कि ये कोई भी चार्ज नहीं लेता। और अब हम देखते हैं कि इस वीडियो में वो कैसे क्लीनिंग करता है। सबसे बेस्ट बात क्या है, मेरी जो भी अर्निंग होगी वो वीडियो के व्यूज़ की बेस के ऊपर होगी। तो आइए हम अब स्टार्ट करते हैं, देखते हैं कि सबसे पहले वो क्या करता है कि ग्रास को कटिंग कर लेता है। ये साइडों से आउटलाइन लगा रहा है इसकी। और ये जो टूल है इसकी सबसे बेस्ट बात ये है कि इसमें कोई भी ब्लेड वगैरह इस्तेमाल नहीं हुआ, लेकिन इसमें ब्लेड नहीं है। एक रस्सी बंधी हुई है जो कि इतनी तेज़ी से मूव कर रही है जिससे इजीली ग्रास को कट कर रही है। अब ये उसने फर्स्ट वाला पोर्शन को कटिंग कर ली है ग्रास की। अब ये सेकंड पोर्शन को स्टार्ट कर रहा है। फ्रंट से इसका हो गया, ये जो गुजरने वाला रास्ता है इसके दूसरे वाली साइड से क्लीनिंग स्टार्ट कर दी है इसने। लॉन मूवर से वो पहले इसको साफ़ करता है। आप देख रहे हैं कि जैसे कि ये दोबारा वो अपने पाथ को साफ़ कर रहा है और अब ये इसके आउटलाइन को क्लियर कर रहा है ग्रास को कट करके। और बहुत ही ये आप देख सकते हैं कि कितना देखने में ही सेटिस्फाइंग लग रहा है कि ये जब ये ग्रास को कट कर रहा है। और साथ ही उसने जो भी ग्रास जितनी भी उसने कट की है, अब कटिंग करने के बाद उसको सबको कलेक्ट करके वो एक गार्बेज में डाल रहा है। डालने के बाद वो इसको यहाँ से उठा लेगा। अब ये देखें, अब ये नहीं कि वो फ्री काम कर रहा है तो उसने बस थोड़ा बहुत काम कर लिया और बस अपनी जान छुड़वाई है, ये भी बात नहीं है। उसने बड़े अच्छे तरीके से उसने इसको साफ़ किया है और जो भी घास उसने काटी है और उसको उसके बाद उसने वहाँ से उसको उठाया भी है। अब ये देखें ये कितना अरसे से ये इसको क्लीनिंग नहीं की गई इसकी ना, और घास का साइज़ भी कितना बड़ा हो चुका है। यहाँ से आपको सही अंदाज़ा हो रहा होगा। ये फिर वही अपने टूल को यूज़ करते हुए घास को साफ़ कर रहा है, क्लीनिंग उसकी बाउंड्री को क्लियर कर रहा है। अब इस यहाँ पे मुख्तलिफ पौधे भी साथ में लगे हुए हैं और इसने सिर्फ घास को काटना है, लेकिन पौधे वहीं के वहीं रहेंगे, उनको भी अच्छे से क्लीन करेगा। ये देखें मुख्तलिफ किस्म के पौधे लगे हुए हैं जिनको ये वहाँ से साफ़ करेगा। ये कुछ जड़ी बूटियाँ हैं, उनको ये रिमूव कर रहा है। यहाँ पे नीचे बेसिकली पत्थर पड़े हुए हैं मेरे ख्याल में, ये पत्थर ही हैं, उन पत्थर में से निकली हुई थी। इन सारे एरिया को ये साफ़ करेगा। ये ब्लोअर की मदद से उसको साफ़ कर रहा है। ये देखें